Hello Tubesters, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. Today we are catching up with our Voltiguer figure. Sit back, Gav is scaring people. He's over there. I've just painted the gaiters, the boots and the waistcoat. Sorry if this is all a bit quick. Gav put all his main lighting rig away and thankfully I was charging the camera up because I completely forgot to do this before I start loading up the video. So yeah, not a huge amount. But you know, as I say, I'm trying to keep them down to more condensed format. Pretty impossible for Gav, but no. Hope you enjoy it. As I say, it's not groundbreaking. It's just how I do things. Your figures, your rules, your ways. It could be a mantra of some description I could write on the channel at the beginning. But yeah, you know, it's just my way of doing things. I put these videos up for the figure painting side of it. You can, you know, pass them by if you want, do whatever you want, but it's just a bit of, you know, sharing how I do things, and obviously there's lots of guys doing the same thing out there, how they paint figures. So hopefully you'll enjoy what's coming up, and we will catch each other on the next video for this figure, which will be painting the jacket. Whether I get all of it done is debatable, but we'll see. And other videos coming up. I believe we've got an update on the Sherman 1/35 scale Sherman tank and showing how far I've got on the tracks. Thank you, Mr. Greg Riley. A kit within a kit this is turning out to be. But anyway, there'll be a video on the Sherman tank, hopefully Sunday, because I'm going to do a bit of work to it tomorrow. Look after yourselves, guys, and we'll catch each other soon on another video. Right guys, welcome to the bench again. We're going to be doing the gaiters. Let me just get a pointy stick, slightly gluey pointy stick, but I apologise. Yeah, so we're going to be doing the gaiters, and for that, as a base, I'm going with the AK rubber black. If you hear the clip clop, Archie's heard me talking, so he's going down from his lying on his nice warm rug to come up and see what I'm talking to. Right, and then the shoes will, obviously I should have said obviously the shoes just pop out at the ends there, so we'll be doing NATO black for those, and that's the AFV, come on, concentrate camera, that's the AFV paint for those. Once I've got the base down, we'll have a look to see what type of highlights we're going to use. Right, for this one I'm using a, where are we? Rosemary & Co. number 1 series 33. Again, I'm using my wet palette. I take some paint out of my palette, as you saw in my beginner video, wipe the excess off on a kitchen towel. Now what I really like about this rubber black is obviously it's got a fair bit of brown in it, which you don't have to obviously buy that colour ready-made. You can obviously just put some brown into some black until you're happy with the colour that you've got on your figure, or put it on your nail first, or something as a test piece if you don't want to run the risk of putting the wrong colour on. But if you're painting a blackish colour on these, I don't think it's going to make that much difference. But it is a nice colour. If you want if you want to, you know, rather than make your own up, you know, if you just want a go-to colour in a bottle, I use this a lot. And I use it for shading, areas as well. You could do white gaiters on these figures, by the way. These are like the winter gaiters. But they seem to be used a fair bit on campaign as well, from what I can gather. As I say, I'm no expert or somebody that's heavily into the subject, but if you want to, they've got their parade stroke summer gaiters in white, and all units of all countries were always hard pressed to keep up with whatever regulation that their country actually had. So I'm quite sure you'll get people that will say, oh, they didn't have this or they didn't have that, but I just go on. I mean, obviously we all know that they did wear black gaiters, because obviously it's in a lot of watercolours and, you know, period uniform. Again, watercolours, prints, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, you know, obviously you'll get people that will shout you down or say, oh, there's no proof that they wore these or that. You know, I mean, personally, yeah, if you were going to put bright pink gaiters on them, you might have trouble trying to explain that in your head. But I tend to find most of my clients, when I'm painting for people, they want black gaiters. You know, if it's a choice between black and white. And yes, in this one, artistically, you would have white gaiters, white trousers, white waistcoat, and the lapels are white as well. So although you'll vary the colour onto the white, yeah, you know, I can understand that. Right, I'll just finish this off and then we'll come back. Well, I just wanted to show you the two bottles together. You might just see that the green one on the left, which is the NATO black, is very slightly blacker than the more browny rubber black. NATO black tends to be a faded black, if that makes sense, when it's put on vehicles, and AK sell this to go through an airbrush or obviously a paintbrush, but I've not actually put it on a vehicle, but other NATO black from other companies I've put on vehicles and on aircraft is like quite a faded black, which works quite well on figures if you want to show like a campaign look. I mean, this guy, you know, yes, he's going to have his black gaiters on and things. How campaign he'd look with all his finery on there, with his the full plume on and the flounders on his shako is can be debatable, but yeah, we're going to go for that look. Right, I've mixed in to the rubber black for the gaiters. I've mixed in some London grey. Not a huge amount to begin with. Oh, to be fair, as I say, it's quite a difficult part, painting the way you do with lights and cameras and that, because it doesn't shine up as much as, or show up, I should say, as much as you'd like. But what I'm trying to show here is where the dyes have faded out a lot. I mean, we're talking, you know, not a lot of chemical dyes here. Most of it was obviously vegetable or mineral, and they didn't always survive first contact with the weather over any type of period. I got the idea for this one from some artwork. It was actually, I'm not sure if it was actually on a French light infantryman, but it works for me. You can see I put a bit of black on the NATO black on the actual boots themselves. There's not a lot showing, so you know there won't be a lot of work to do on those. I might probably give those a bit of a brown front turn on the toe caps, just to show a bit of scuffing on the leather. Now what I'm doing at the moment, I've just added more of the London grey into the original mix. Quite often you don't have to, if you want a more subtle effect rather than having those what can I say, you know, highlights that are quite stripy or, you know, quite showy. Quite often, rather than just going up a colour, you know, so you might say, oh well, I'll chuck some light grey on that, or some sandy colour, or, you know, I don't know, something that anyway, you want to really bring up the highlights more starkly. Sometimes it's just a case of adding more of the two colours together. So in this case, you know, if you add if it was a, you know, a third, it's in that mix at the moment, we'll call it 2/3 London grey and a third rubber black, if that helps. But again, it's really just suck it and see. Just, you know, it's your figure. Don't get too disheartened if it doesn't work out, because or you've got a paintbrush, you've got paint, just paint over it and start again. If it's really not, not to your liking. And if it's just one figure and you're painting, 24, then it's just a variant. All the figures would have been different, in their uniform. So we're going to leave that like that for now. As I've said to you guys before, when I do an entire figure, when I come to the end of that figure, apart from what I call the cleaning up process, where you might have dabbed the odd bit of paint in the wrong place, I will go round again the entire figure and just see if there's anything that I'm not happy with, that I might want to get some more highlights, say on the gaiters or the trousers, whatever, it's whatever, you fancy, you do that. What I think I'm going to do now, as I've got the time, is I'm just going to do this waistcoat, I think, and that gives us a bit more to be going at, and obviously the boots themselves. Right guys, as you can see, I've actually put some scuff marks where the leather hasn't been polished. He's been on campaign, and it's all the black leather's going back to natural colours. I may put some, as I've said, literally rubber black. I use it for so much things, for shading and putting washes over to bring something down. Not 100% yet. As I said to you guys, I've got literally my overhead lamp, light in the ceiling, and if you know what it's like in the UK, we've all been forced to take these low energy bulbs and all this type of stuff, and they give about as much light out as a whale oil lamp of the 1850s. We've also got 3 lights on the go, my painting lamp plus my 2 video lamps, and it's still, because of the positioning of the lamps and the camera over the top of the desk and all the rest of it, it's really hard to actually see what I'm painting, what I'm looking at. So I think that's okay. It might come over better to you guys or worse in the camera, but as I said, I don't want to make them look like tan boots. I still want them to make them people know it's black. But again, it just gives you, it depends. Well, it's this problem with me, I always end up not finishing what I'm saying. Finish what you're saying, Gav. What I'm trying to say is it gives you that bit of extra look to your figure, rather than just a monotonous. You tend to find when you're painting a unit, it's highlight, 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 next paint, highlight, highlight, and you end up with stripy looking trousers a lot of the time. Everything looks the same, if it's, say you go, oh, everything's black, gaiters are black, boots are black, shako's black, so boom, 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 everything goes black on there, and everything just looks like the same. And again, if it's on the tabletop and they're your figures, you do what you like with them. Again, I'm not trying to be patronising or say this should be done this way or that way. I'm just pointing out that when you put more ideas into the figures, you get, I was going to say, this does sound patronising, I want to say you get more enjoyment out of them. But on a personal level for me, when I'm painting figures, I like to, or looking at other people's figures, I like to see all the little differences, you know. As I say, I absolutely understand if people are banging units out that they just want to get on the tabletop, and, you know, finessing different colours and stuff isn't going to be on their radar. I do get that. But, you know, it's like the gaiters. The gaiters could have been quite easily just stark black with the usual black-grey highlight on them, and that's it. Well, we've gone for this like rubber black with more grey into it, in two lots of highlights with added grey in. You can go higher. I may decide to go one more highlight on those yet, but as I say, my lights, they look fine under the camera, but I can't get near enough to say if it's not actually bang on. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do with the boots. And I should have said, I used on the boots, I used whole red, which now you've got to be careful with these whole reds because they come in such a variety from the different manufacturers. This is quite a brown one, and you guys following figures aren't probably following my 1 in 350 frigate build that I'm doing, my scale model frigate. I've used that on no, I didn't, sorry, no, tell a lie, that was lacquer I used on that, but it's more or less the same colour. It's quite a brown, whereas I believe the Vallejo one that I've got here in my paint rack is actually, which is almost empty, is more of a reddy colour. A very nice colour, by the way, the Vallejo whole red. But this is good because it's got that hint of red in. I've just used it on, in fact, let's just get him over here. I used it on the tack, the horse tack on this guy that I'm working on at the moment. So all the horse furniture is painted with that. It hasn't had a highlight or anything on that yet, but yeah. So that went down next, and then on top of that, I didn't mix any of this in with it because it would send it more of a muddy colour. I put some canvas tone, as they call it. One other question, it was what I brought it out to use as the base colour rather than the whole red, and didn't use it. Does anybody know what SCC means? I didn't know if it was a Spanish Civil War, but then again, I don't know what the other C's for. So not, I got this when I got the other AKs to try out because I like the colour. I think that can work on a lot. Well, it does work on a lot of things, a lot of leather work in that. But yeah, I don't know what SCC means. Right, guys, I think we'll be going on to doing the yellow tape on around the gaiters next. Right, guys, I've just done the tape or the lacing on top of the gaiters, as you can see in yellow. I've had to do a bit of clean up, and there still might be a bit of clean up involved that I can't see, as I say, with the way the camera is set up. But it's a very thin line. Some manufacturers do it thicker than others, and I'm sure in real life it varied, because a lot of the times the tape was added on by the soldier if he was in a flank company, you know, like a grenadier or a Voltiguer unit, just on their own cost sometimes, or the cost of their officer or their company. They might put these adornments on. Now, for the base colour on that, bearing in mind that was the same grey as the primer grey that the rest of the figure's in, but what I've actually done, I decided to go over it with medium flesh tone as a base. As you know, the yellow coverage is never brilliant. It's quite translucent, and yes, you're putting it on, which is why I paint in grey rather than black. But sometimes you want the medium flesh tone. You could go on a lighter flesh tone, but this gives a nice shadow area, and that's what I've wanted here. I wanted to actually keep it fairly it just adds to the shadows anyway, but as you can see by the tassels. But what I've done was, before I put that, I put the medium base coat on, but then put a tiny bit of white where I wanted highlights. Now I didn't want to highlight the rest of the lace around the top. To me that was good enough between the deep yellow that I put round and the medium flesh that was there as its base coat. But the medium flesh has added some slight shadow to the main area of the tassels, because it's really the only area you're going to really see much difference in, as it stands out. I've put white dots on the two bits of highlights on each tassel that were the most proudest, and then went over it with the yellow, so as you can see it gives you a lot brighter look without you trying to add white to the yellow, which will just give you like a lot more icy yellow look, which can be used as a highlight, especially on non-metallic metal. But yeah, that's what I've done on those. It may need a touch of a highlight here, clean up here and there. Now I'm going to do the buttons, which I have to quickly look at my reference, because it may be, I believe it's going to be brass buttons, but for the gaiters, but I just better check. Well, what do I know? I've just gone and looked on I do loads of these. I still paint them in different buttons, which I'm sure they were anyway, but most of the references I've just looked at showed pewter buttons. I've done them in the good old Vallejo gunmetal. It's yes, they're pewter buttons, and just give them a not too shiny a look was what I was after. I may have to just touch up again round them in a place I can see one extra bit. This is the horrible bit using metallics. Again, just the lighting I've got rigged up here. I can't see what the heck I'm doing. So yeah, that's the gaiters, the boots. Obviously we've got our tassels all yellow, and we've got our pewter buttons on. What I always do is, I said to you guys, it's not so bad on a one-off figure. It's more applicable to doing when you can't get round figures and doing units, but I always like to put some brown of any description I happen to have on the palette, just to when you come to mount your figures on, it's just easier if you've got a bit showing through and you're trying to get through other figures to get to it. It's just easier just to put if you just brown your figure's base, and then it's ready to put whatever covering over that you want to later on in the basing process. So we're going to have a go on this waistcoat now. I think I was just going to do the boots and that today, but I think we'll do the waistcoat as well. Right, guys, I've done the waistcoat. I know that these are going, again, I haven't even shot the intro to these yet, and I know they go way over time and people lose interest. My pup Archie's just walked all over my feet. Thank you, Arch. Right, let's go through what colours I've used on the waistcoat. I just wanted to put my theory behind it. As I said to you guys before, I like to, where we've got a sea of white, if you can see, a sea of white, I like to mix it up. I may put another highlight on the trousers yet. It's not until you start throwing everything together where you can see something might need a bit more, or even more shade. I quite like the dirtier look, but I might put another highlight on the trousers, but it wouldn't be until the whole figure's been done. The waistcoat I wanted to do obviously a warmer white compared to the colder of the trousers. Quite often, as you know, in my painting, it's actually reversed. I normally do warmer trousers and a colder look for the waistcoat, but as I've wanted to do shake this up a bit, do a bit different, we've gone opposite. So at the moment, again, that might change slightly. I'm not sure yet, but because the lapels, which are hardly on show on this figure, but where the musket is and the strapping and everything, they are usually like a warmer off-white when you look at like reenactors jackets and stuff, where the cross belts have been rubbing on them and, you know, getting dirt in them and that. So they will be not that far off this colour here. So I've got to be a bit careful. I don't want it, again, just one solid look. So we've just got to be a bit careful on that. But I went for base coat of pale sand, 2 coats. Then a third of ivory. Vallejo ivory is always a lovely colour. It's a nice warm colour. And so I put a third of ivory into that mix. Then Vallejo on its own. And then I went back to I haven't got the bottle to show you, but the medium flesh tone that I used earlier on the base for the tape. I actually used that for putting in some more shadow areas. So underneath the flaps of the little pockets that's on there, and down the jacket itself where it's buttoned up. There may be a darker highlights goes into separating the jacket and the waistcoat when we do the jacket, which will probably be the next instalment. So guys, thank you very much for taking the time to follow along with this. I'll say it's only a bit of fun. I enjoy showing off what I've learned over the years. You know, obviously everybody does things differently, as I keep saying. It's not this is the way, it's just my way. So we'll catch each other on the next one. I've actually got to shoot an intro to this yet. It's a bit about face, but next one will be blue of the jacket. If we get everything done on the jacket is debatable, but we'll get to at least the basics on the jacket done, and we'll see where we go from there. So again, once again, thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look, and we'll catch each other very, very soon on another video.